Like, I hope y'all know that, bro. Like, most human communication itself is nonverbal. So the specific actions that you take, nigga, your micro expressions. I'm talking micro expressions can literally be props to help convey a certain narrative about you. Literally, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you exude yourself, how you move, all of these different things are simply the art that you're using in order to paint the picture that you want to paint, to allow the people who are perceiving you to perceive you in the way that you want to be fucking perceived. Like, if y'all don't believe me, bro, think about this, bro. Negative traits in one person can be a positive trait in another person, and you might just simply think, oh, it's because they're biased. It's just because they're biased. But what the fuck does bias actually mean? Like, why would you actually be biased towards another person rather than another person? Let's just think about that shit logically for a second. Let's say the narrative behind the person that you perceived in a positive fashion is better and more attractive than the narrative that this person has on them, which is why their specific actions are going to be interpreted differently. This is why a negative trait in one person can be seen as a positive trait in another person. And not only that, it's the curation of the traits in themselves. So it's the combination between the specific traits which signals something to the person who's seeing the action itself. Like, I know, bro, it's a huge difference between a creep and somebody with game, and the difference isn't in the actions that they're taking. It's in the way in which they're taking the action and the narratives which are deriving from the actions themselves because of the narratives which overarch each individual. Let's say it's just somebody who's just seen as some fucking weirdo, some creep. He keeps just looking at you from the side of his eye, and then every time you look back at him, he just this goofy ass nigga, if he walks up to you, or let's say he walks up to some shorty, she's obviously going to find this nigga to be absolutely repulsive, and she's going to derive the worst possible narrative due to the fact that he already has an unattractive narrative surrounding him. But let's say this exact same person moved entirely differently, bro. He was just calm, walked up with the swag, had a nice outfit, looked the exact same. Just walked up to the person, tapped her. She's going to be, oh, hey, what are you doing? How are you? You're going to be treated entirely different based on the narrative which surrounds you, which you have full control over due to the fact that you can signal certain things to the person which allows that person to see you in a certain fashion. You have control over that. So, bro, if you're seen as a creep, it's because the narrative which surrounds you and the things which you're signaling to the person is causing that person to perceive you as a fucking creep. So you might see somebody do the exact same thing that you do and get way different outcomes, and you might think, bro, it's just because they're biased against me. It's because of this. No, bro. It's because of the narrative which surrounds you. So what you need to do is just signal the right fucking prototype, archetype, something. Just signal something which will allow that person to perceive you in a positive fashion. Like, watch this. Your curation of different traits in different ways can cause them to be seen as differently also. Watch this shit, bro. Let's say you're a silent and a hella low talker. So people have to basically like put their ear next to you to even understand anything you're saying. They're like, yo, what? Nigga, what? Nigga, what? Now, let's frame this trait in a different way. First, let's frame it in the most negative way possible. Now, look what body language you're giving. You're giving the huddled up body language, and you're looking as if you're afraid of your surroundings. You're looking like you're trying to protect something and you're not trying to get seen. And you keep looking around you because you're hella nervous. You're like, and you're just hella nervous, bro, hella scared. And every time you look around you, you just get more scared because you're so afraid of your damn surroundings. Every single time somebody looks at you, you look away hella fast. You're avoiding eye contact because you're afraid of being seen. You're hella socially anxious. You keep looking down at your phone every single time. You're trying to look as normal as possible, but you're not looking as normal as possible. You're looking the weirdest shit because you keep trying to just protect yourself from something else. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to learn this common fucking theme. The preservation mindset and the mindset of somebody who's trying to preserve something never fucking works in any facet, bro. It's like trying to grab on the water and the water's just slipping straight through your fingers. You try to do that with a girl, you try to do that with yourself, you try to do that in any fucking facet of life, you're always going to be perceived in the worst possible light because you're going to be seen as somebody who's afraid of something, because that's the position of somebody who's afraid of losing something. The person who wins is the person who's willing to put himself on the line, open himself up, pause, in order to be either seen as good or bad. It's the person who's willing to take that step. You know, the biggest loser is the biggest winner, the person who's willing to lose. So that individual that I spoke about, this nigga who's afraid of everything, who talks hella low, who's like this, they're like, hey, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing great. That nigga's going to be seen as the eternal weirdo. And if he even tries to talk to somebody, let's say the shoulder tap, go away, creep, go the fuck away, creep, move, creep. Yeah, they're going to call that nigga a creep, and they're going to interpret his action in the context of the narrative that's overarching this individual. People are very unafraid to recognize these certain truths, but actions mean something entirely different when different people do them due to the fact that the narrative which surrounds the action and that person are intertwined. Therefore, your narrative matters and what you signal to the person matters. But let's say this exact fucking same individual just changed his stature. Let's say he was just like hella chill. Let's say when somebody looks back at him, when he looks, he just keeps eye contact. He's moving hella slow, hella calm, just vibing out, just enjoying the show, just smiling, right? Somebody says something to him. He still talks in this low ass tone. He's all like, oh yeah, this is crazy, this is fire. And let's say he's just hella smart. Let's say he just says some crazy shit. He's all like, well, you know, this place, this party, this is really like the culmination of a whole bunch of different roads all being intertwined into one place. And we're all in this spinning fucking ball, experiencing motion, perceiving it in this time. And you know what? Couldn't be more beautiful. say that in this low ass tone, they gonna be like, who the fuck is this nigga? Cold as shit. Let's say the nigga got the swag. Let's say the nigga saucing. You might perceive that to be kind of weird, but bro, trust me, bro. If you do it with confidence, I told you, it's gonna come with the assumption that what you're saying and who you are is special. So people are gonna believe what you're saying because of the confidence that you're able to exude, my friend. So let's say this individual exudes confidence when he says those bars. Bro, he's gonna be seen as an entirely different kind of individual than the person he was perceived at in the first place. So let's say he takes the exact same action as he took the first time. Let's say he goes to walk up, tap, 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 tap. The girl might be fucking flattered because they're like, oh, he doesn't even say much. And he's like, he's a low speaker. He's just hella cool. This person is just, I like this guy. And they're going to start attaching things to you that aren't even that fucking true. They're going to be like, I don't know, but whenever he doesn't speak much, but whenever he does, the shit's fantastic. This nigga must be him. So now you're perceived as him. People are just gassing you up. And this entire time, you're the exact same individual. You're just signaling different things to the audience, bro. Now, once you understand narratives are all intertwined, my friend, and then you understand how to move and you understand the reason why you're getting certain outcomes in life. Some people might just think that they're just eternally cooked. You're not eternally cooked. Your approach is eternally cooked. The narrative that's derived from your actions is eternally cooked, unless you change them bitches up. And if you can pull this off, you'll get an entirely different outcome. So you need to pay attention to your surroundings and pay attention to how people are perceiving you and pay attention to what you're doing in order to be perceived that way. We were born this way. We were born on an earth, and you know, we might not have full control over the archetypes, the stereotypes, the prototypes which exist out there in the world, which we might be subject to. But what we do have control over is what we signal out there to people who perceive us. And that's anybody out there. Anybody out there. It's not a particular type of people I'm talking about. I'm not making some goofy ass political statement in the big 25. Nah, bro. This is universal advice, but it can be applied to different kind of people in a whole bunch of different kind of ways. That's when you know you're getting some good ass advice. Let's do another one, bro. Let's say you're just naturally a goofy individual, right? But let's say you couple this goofiness with just being self-deprecating. You're like, oh, I'm lame as fuck. Oh, I'm short as shit. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. Basically just being at the expense of every joke out there, including your own jokes. At this point, what you are is the jester. You're the jester, bro. You're hella nervous. You don't perceive yourself to be fantastic in any way. You're just some goofy motherfucker who's just trying to make people like him by being at the expense of their own jokes and of your jokes also. So you're going to be seen as goofy as shit because the kind of person that you're projecting is somebody that's goofy as shit. You're projecting the energy of somebody who's going to be perceived as the jester. The jester is not cool. The clown is not cool because the fucking clown is just making niggas laugh for no apparent reason. But let's say you're somebody different, right? Let's say you're goofy, right? But you know how to switch the tone up. You're goofy, but you're sharp. You're funny, you're sharp. You got the swag, laid back. You're not worried about nothing. You're not at the expense of your own jokes. You're just simply flipping the script with quick funniness, bro. You're able to turn a bad situation into a good one like that nigga Reggie just because you're able to be funny on damn near command. You're basically just like a comedian. This is why like somebody like a Dave Chappelle might be seen as different than Kevin Hart from like a few years back. Because back then Kevin Hart was just kind of seen as the goofy dude getting humped by Shaq. He changed up now, like he's more serious now in some facets because he shows different parts of his personality. But back then, a Dave Chappelle was never just seen as a goofy person. He was seen as somebody who was funny, smart, articulate, etc. Now Kevin got that bag too, but it took him a while. At first, he was kind of self-deprecating in a way, getting humped by Shaq, throwing weak punches, acting like he can't fight nobody. He was just kind of goofy. He was just the jester in a way. So what you don't want to be is the jester. You rather be the comedian and not the fucking jester. The jester and the comedian are not the same. The comedian controls narratives. He flips narratives on their head. He says what other people can't. He's uncancelable because he's able to jump into different facets and hop over different lines that other people aren't able to cross. He's strong, he's powerful, and he's not at the expense of his own fucking jokes. While the jester, the joker, the goofy ass nigga is only there to make other people laugh and get nothing else out of it. So the way that you exude yourself is going to signal certain things to the people who are perceiving you. So it's not about being in particular the right person, okay? It's about pushing the right buttons in order to be perceived as the right person. And anybody can do this no matter what disposition that they were born with, no trace that they were born with, because none of these are inherently good or bad. It's the way that they're curated in the moments that they're being perceived, which would allow them to be perceived as good or bad. We've already shown that. Being short is not inherently bad. Being tall is not inherently good. Being funny is not inherently good. Being boring is not inherently bad. You basically just need to use these different traits, couple them with the right surrounding traits, which would allow those specific traits to be seen as positive through the eyes of the beholder. You create a narrative through your specific actions, which allow the person that's perceiving you to see you as phenomenal. It's just the way that you do things. There are thousands of different ways to communicate a whole bunch of different things. 65% of communication is already nonverbal, bruh. So if you just walk into a place with the thought process of I'm really him, and you truly believe it, your body movements, your micro expressions, and every other aspect of you is just just gonna walk in tandem with that belief, and they're gonna act as if that belief is true, because your body is gonna follow your mind. Your movements are gonna be confident as shit, and emotional contagion is gonna happen. People are gonna see this confidence that you're exuding, and it's gonna be contagious, and they're gonna then perceive you to be fantastic. I told you, human beings may not process everything in truth. We take small fragments of information that we see and derive a narrative out of it. So if we just see somebody that's extremely confident, we're naturally gonna conclude, oh, this person must be special, which will allow your specific traits to be seen as phenomenal from their eyes also, which will then allow you to be perceived as what? That nigga. All of one simple thought of I'm him. You were able to communicate all of these different things, starting with a change in the way that you see yourself. Like, think about this, different micro expressions, different thoughts. Did y'all notice the difference between those smiles? The first thought, while I had the first kind of smile, was, oh, I hope people don't perceive me as fucking weird. The second thought is, man, I'm not nigga, man. I'm just. The second smile signals something to the person who's perceiving it, bro. I'm telling you, this might sound weird, but in a way, both women and men, but to a far more substantial degree, women have a crazy ability to just see, they're trying to see value in the person that they're perceiving, basically, bro. And if you're able to signal certain things, you're going to be seen as fantastic, which is why you might be seen as a 1 out of 10 one day and a 10 out of 10 the other day. And you might just think to yourself, bro, pause, bro. What the fuck is this ick shit? Why is she seeing me as fantastic one day and ask the other one, what's going on, bro? What's going on, bro? What the ick basically is, my friend. Let's say a girl sees you, right? Now, from the moments that she sees you, let's say you did some fantastic shit in front of her. Let's say girls was trying to talk to you in front of her. Let's say she saw you talk to a few girls before her. Let's say those girls look fantastic. Bunch of niggas walking up to you, shaking your hand. The adults smiling at you, waving at you like, hey. See you switch codes like 3 different times with 3 different groups, and all 3 different groups look up to you as if you're like fantastic. Let's say she sees you got like a nice Instagram following. Let's say she sees you got the swag. Bro, she doesn't know much about you, but understand she's going to project a crazy ass ideal which matches what she's already seen. If she's already only seen positives of you, the natural human tendency to close the narrative, remember what I told you, we take fragments of information and create a narrative, but we can't take the fragments of information and leave that as it is. We have to complete the narrative, and that's called closure. The completion is the part that we have to project onto the narrative. The assumption, 4 legs, cat, 4 legs, dog, 4 legs, bear. That projection is called closure. And in order to close the narrative, once you see these fragments of information, which are these moments that they seen you in, which were fantastic, which showed signs of you being a fantastic individual, they're going to project an ideal which matches that. So no negatives, no nothing. Once they see you, right, and let's say they come to talk to you, right, you get their number, you get their Instagram, you want to take them out. You're walking with them, you're having a great time. She sees you with this fantastic individual, you know, that's aligned, that's consistent with what she already saw of you, these fantastic things. But let's say in one of the moments, you do something that deviates from the ideal in a negative fucking way. You don't keep the strong suits of the ideal, nigga, she's going to get the fucking ick. Let's say you walk up somewhere, right? You hella nervous to talk to people. You're like, hello, can you say something? Can you say something? Can you say something to the register guy? Can you order for me? Can you do this? Can you do that? I just can't do it. I just can't do it. Let's say you're afraid to do a whole bunch of different shit. Instant ick, bro. And you might think, why the fuck doesn't she like me anymore? What happened, bro? What did I do? You thought that just because she liked you in one moment that shit was just gonna stick forever. No, my friend, you deviated from the ideal. Therefore, she doesn't like you anymore. She liked the ideal. The you was now somewhere else below the ideal. She liked the ideal. She didn't fucking like whatever this nigga is. And you can't blame her, because how the hell is she supposed to know you off a few moments? You can't get mad at her and just be like, why did she get it? Just go dig it. Women suck. No, you gotta learn how to keep signal coherence, bro. So if you signal these phenomenal things in the beginning, bro, it better stay consistent. If you do deviate from the ideal person that she saw you to be, you better deviate from the negatives, bro. You better just surpass it. You better be better than it. Anything below the ideal is going to be absolutely cooked. You're basically just going to be like, oh, this nigga sucks. Oh, this nigga sucks. But if you're able to deviate from it in a positive way, let's say she thought you were great, but you're fantastic. That's the only kind of deviations that you're supposed to be doing. Never deviate in a negative way. There are certain things called cultural archetypes, which allows them to see the most simple narrative, which allows them to not have to think too much when they see you. So let's say they see you walking, right? Let's say they see you got some swag on you. Let's say they see you got the Balenciaga bandit pants on, right? So this is some crazy shit. Let's say they see you got the chrome heart hat on or something, bro. Let's say you got the raw chain on. Let's say they ask you for your Instagram and you look like an influencer. You're going to be seen as being part of the influencer archetype, the modern cultural influencer archetype. That's a fantastic archetype to be in, because that archetype is seen as special and fantastic in our modern world, regardless of however many people want to discredit it. You know, that narrative has social proof. That narrative is socially validated on a wide scale in our modern culture. Therefore, that's a phenomenal archetype to project. But if you deviate from that archetype that she projected onto you in a negative way, let's say she finds out that your followers were fake. Let's say she finds out that Balenciaga was fake. Let's say your shit wasn't chrome heart, that shit was chrome tart, nigga. Let's say every single thing that she thought about you was just a fabrication of an archetype that she wished you to be. If you deviate from that archetype in a negative way, like I just said, she's gonna get the fucking ick because she didn't like you. What she liked was who she thought you to be. That's why she says, I like the guy in the beginning. The guy in the beginning had fragments of moments that he was seen in, so she was able to project an ideal which matched the positive fragments that she saw. Once she spent enough time with you, and once you deviated to enough degree from the ideal that she thought you were, she got the fucking ick, and she began to just miss the person that you were. But you were never truly that person. She projected an ideal version onto you in order to complete the narrative, which was entirely not her fault. We naturally have a tendency to do this, and she simply just did not like it anymore. Therefore, your shit was resulted in you being fucked. So if you're gonna fake something, you better keep faking it to the point that you're just like a god tier signaler. I say don't fake it, but I'm just saying, if you're gonna do it, you can still win. You just gotta be a god tier faker. You better fake it till you make it. And if y'all didn't know by now, that's exactly what aura itself is. What aura itself is, bro, is somebody doing some phenomenal shit in front of you, right? But let's say you only seen them do a few different things, but those few different things were fantastic. Let's say, you saw a nigga do a through the legs dunk in the middle of the basketball game, and he just walked off, put some Yeezy slides on, the chain, the chrome hearts hat, and just walked straight out the gym. You could be like, yo, who the fuck is that nigga? Is that nigga in the league? He's gonna have a league-bound aura because you were able to project this ideal which matched the fantastic moment that you just seen that person in. Let's say you see a girl who might look like a model, hit a model strut in front of you, Louis Vuitton bag, signaling that she's somebody who has a lot of money, walks off, you're gonna project the ideal of her being like, is that a model? Who the fuck is this? That person is gonna have model aura. Now, what exactly is happening from a psychological standpoint? You saw a fragment of a moment. You saw a simple moment, right? But that simple moment showed this person doing some fantastic shit. So what exuded from that person was uncertainty, but positive uncertainty. All you saw them do was positive shit. So in order to complete that positive narrative, due to this cognitive tendency that humans have called closure, we needed to close the narrative. Therefore, what we projected onto these two people were phenomenal things. So these people are seen as absolutely fantastic, except for the fact that this is the case. Once you leave somebody with a degree of uncertainty after only seeing positives from you, you don't know how deep that uncertainty could go. That uncertainty can go anywhere between you being a god in their head to being something fantastic. It's fantastic to godhood. It's why that nigga Kim Jong-un always tells people to lie about him, and he only allows his citizens to see him every so often. He says, I never once peed in my life. I was born from a god. Some of them citizens start believing it due to the fact that they have limited access to this individual, and once they see this individual, he's coupled with the narrative of him being some damn god. Simultaneously, they've only ever seen him do a few things, and he probably looked absolutely fantastic from their point of view because they were brought up to believe that this nigga was fantastic. So he had aura. Aura is basically somebody doing something special in front of you, and in order for you to complete the narrative, you projected a certain ideal onto this individual, and the ideal itself is fused in with uncertainty because you don't know everything about that individual. So the ideal mixed with the positive thing that you've seen them do, mixed with uncertainty, caused them to have more aura. Is why Duke Dennis, I hate talking about this goofy shit. I'm not really into this shit, but this is just a reference that y'all niggas understand. I don't like this level of dick sucking, but y'all were able to dick suck that nigga because y'all seen him do a few positive things. Y'all saw this nigga doing some crazy dunks, getting some bitches, all this other shit, and y'all derived that this nigga must be him, and y'all projected an ideal onto him, and that ideal meant that he just can't lose to nobody, and he's just Mr. Aura. But as time continued, and if let's say he was just a stream every single day, let's say he played basketball every single day, and he accumulated a whole bunch of losses, this nigga is going to get the aura ick. His aura is going to decline because his uncertainty is declining, and his actions isn't matching up to the positive that he portrayed in those few moments that you've seen of him. Therefore, you begin to see him look kind of worse. It's the reason why oversaturation is a thing. You don't want to oversaturate something because as it gets less scarce, and if that thing doesn't match the ideal, which it rarely ever does, that thing is going to have a less aura naturally. The only people who have been able to just continuously just keep their aura is somebody like Ye, because he just keeps everybody guessing every single time. You just never know what this nigga's thinking. This is why streaming might not be good for every artist, because once you see too much of an artist, you might be like a few years back, bro, yo, we thought Cardi was a vampire. Like it's some niggas out there that thought Cardi, like if you just caught him in a room, he might be floating. We never saw that nigga in the sun. He might bite you in the neck. You just thought like he was just some damn vampire. He was just aured up, pause. But Cardi's aura came from him being very meticulous with how he exuded himself in the moments that he was seen. He understood that his perception was everything, so he only allowed himself to be seen in certain moments, and when he was seen, he made sure that this nigga had the swag. He made sure that he was walking a certain way, talking a certain way. He made sure that you only ever seen positive things out of him, so that you were able to project this fucking ideal to complete the narrative of him being absolutely fantastic. Had he had a bunch of interviews every single week, let's say this nigga had his own weekly podcast, let's say you found out somebody else was writing the songs, let's say you just see him in the studio just stealing niggas flows, you're then gonna get like aura ick from this nigga. You're gonna be like, ah, he's not the person that we thought he was. Because most humans are never going to be the people that you think that they were, which is why most of them are always meticulous with how they portray themselves in the moments that they were perceived. perceived. My nigga Michael Jackson only spoke in one voice. He's like, bro, Michael Jackson is black. That nigga talks like me probably, bro. But he knew exactly what he was doing. He talked in he talked in that little voice, and he made sure that whenever you saw him, he had the swag. He was screaming out loud. You never saw him with any girls, any dudes. You never saw him doing nothing except for keeping that narrative that he had once we saw him. So once you see the nigga, you project a certain idea which matches what you seen, and his aura is just going to be absolutely insane. So once you see the nigga in concert, you might faint. You might be, I told you, once you're able to be shrewd in uncertainty, but positive uncertainty, you can either be seen as a fucking deity or be seen as somebody that's fantastic. Positive uncertainty is one of the best tools that humans have ever used because they can cause others to perceive them and however they want to be perceived. Now, negative uncertainty will get you shot. This is why you don't want to signal negative stereotypes. Let's say, well, I'm just walking around at nighttime right in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time. Straight do-rag, shiestied up, pants sagged to the meat showing, all white forces, no, all black forces. Blood on my face. About to be like, bro, call the police, because I'm shooting in what? Negative uncertainty with a negative stereotype. Negative uncertainty, they don't know what I'm gonna do. I can either kill them, I can either rob them, I can do a whole bunch of different shit. So when they see me, they're gonna project the worst possible ideal onto me in order to complete the narrative, in order to what? Protect themselves, because this is where this tendency came from in the first place, and the reason why it's there in the first place. This is why you don't want to signal the wrong thing to the wrong kind of people. You need to know who's going to fucking see you, and use the world's assumption as a canvas, and the way you exude yourself is your own art. You can be perceived in any way that you want. You just got to understand how people are going to see you based on the things that you're signaling. This is why code switching is a thing, because they understand that certain narratives are going to be derived from how you walk, talk, speak, because of assumptions, and because we have this natural tendency to derive narratives off fragments of information. This is a natural human tendency. You can get mad at it all you fucking want, or you can accept it for what it is and win in the context of the world that you're living in. You can either win the game and accept the rules and attempt to use the rules in your own favor by sitting outside of it, metacognition, or you can be just somebody living under the rules and in the parameters of the game saying, I wish the game was different. Fuck the game. The game is stupid. The game shouldn't be like this. No, the game is sucks. No, I hate this game. No. You're only going to ever be at the will as somebody else's fucking boot, stepping on you, because the rules of the game are natural and they're going to continuously exist. You're not going to change the rules, but what you can change is how you live within the parameters of the game, and even get outside the game once you learn how to use the game to your own favor. So that's how stereotypes exist. But there's also this thing called archetypes, right? Now you have different levels of archetypes. You got deep fucking archetypes, which exist in every culture and every time period, because it's just deep patterns within the human narrative, and we call these archetypes, right? Now you got the hero, the mentor, etc. This is the highest level of archetype because it's the most fundamental. It's the reason why a whole bunch of different characters and a whole bunch of different shows are basically stemmed from the exact same archetype, and we feel as if we know these characters. We felt like we knew Uncle Lyra, we felt like we knew Jiraiya, because they played the archetypal role of being the mentor, while Naruto, while Zuko, while Deku played the role of being the student. These narratives also exist, and if you're able to signal a narrative like this, it's going to be absolutely cracked. Or you can just live within these narratives and they show you a way in order to exist. You can take the hero's journey, you can take the mentor's journey, you can take the fallen hero's journey, you can take the anti-hero's journey, the Sasuke. You can take a whole bunch of different journeys, and you can embody these different modes of being based on the archetype which already exists within us. Now, people disagree of where these things stem from, so I'm just going to talk about exactly what they are and how to use them in the first place. But that's tier 1 archetypes. Now, let's get lower. Now you got tier 2 archetypes. This is cultural archetypes. This basically means a narrative which is going to be special within the confinements of the culture that you're being seen. That's where the model archetype, the influencer archetype, the NBA archetype, the Division I basketball player archetype, all of these positive archetypes exist in the confinements of the culture which you're seen as. Now, if you're able to signal one hard as fuck, you're going to have the prototypical effect. And if somebody's going to see you signaling a positive archetype, they're going to associate you with the positives of that specific archetype. This is the contrast of stereotypes. This is what I'm saying. This thing isn't a good or a bad thing. You can use this shit to your favor, or it can be used against you if you allow it to be. You can either be seen as a bad stereotype or as a positive archetype, or as a bad or as a positive stereotype or a fucking bad archetype. Basically, it's just depending on what you're able to signal in the moments that you're able to be perceived. And by this, people are going to derive certain narratives. And if you're able to just truly signal a positive archetype, you're going to be seen as fucking fantastic, because they're going to associate the positives from every other person that embodied the mode of being of that archetype to you. The issue is that if you deviate from the positives of that specific archetype, you're going to have the ick effect again. But if somebody sees you embodying that archetype, you're going to be seen as fucking fantastic, which is why Division I basketball players at every school always pulls the most. Football players always pull the most. You know, rappers, singers, all these niggas always pull the most, because they embody the modes of being of these positive archetypes, and they're going to be seen as being synonymous with these archetypes. This is also why these niggas who embody the stereotypes get sent to jail hella fast. They get fucking brutalized and shit. They get shot. They get basically just treated as if they're just automatically repulsive because they're signaling a negative archetype or a negative stereotype. Basically, this all is depending on signal coherence, and it's up to you in order to signal the way in which you want to be perceived. But you got to understand the game first before you start using the tools in order to get what you want out of the game in the first place, or to help somebody out in the first place. But the thing is, you got to first admit that you're in a game that is fully predicated upon narrative signaling. But the reason why tier 1 archetypes are so important is that these deep narratives already exist deep within the human psyche. So once you see these characters like a Deku, a Naruto, a Luffy, that's just embodying these certain archetypes, we're gonna basically feel as if we know these niggas. We're gonna feel like, damn, we know these people, we know the pattern, we know the road that they're taking. You might just think to yourself, why do all these different stories always take very relatively similar paths? It's because these archetypes already exist deep within the human mind, and we never get tired of seeing them once done and curated in a positive fashion. And fucking 1,000 years from now, humans are still here. They're still gonna make movies about the hero's journey because that thing is always constantly lived out every single day by many human beings and deep within the human psyche in the first fucking place. And since that's the case, we'll never get tired of these kinds of stories. And the more fundamental a story is, the more fucking outlandish it is, the more we're gonna get attached to it. Is why anime is so big right now, because they embody these archetypal stories while simultaneously making them interesting as possible. You know, Luffy's son Wukong, all of these other characters played relatively similar roles, basically just freedom fighters, except they're doing it in different ways. It's the reason why you can tell the exact same story hundreds of different ways, because the deep fundamental aspect of the story is the heart, and we're using the narratives behind everything as the limbs. The heart pumps the blood into the limbs and allows everything to move, and it depends on how good these limbs are and how strong these limbs are for how strong the story is going to be. But as long as this fundamental aspect is there, that story has the ability to skyrocket. That's why archetypal stories like the ones from Disney, like the ancient stories, like the cultural stories that match other cultural stories that just only differ in the specifics, like the names and shit, have the deepest effect on us once we read them, because they already exist deep within the human psyche. So I'm telling you, this tendency to see narratives is deeply ingrained in us, and the degree of the narrative that you're going to embody will be to the degree that you're able to be perceived by the people who are perceiving you. Basic psychology. You got this shit.